Hello everybody, Game Cooker US Rocks VR here. Excuse me, happy Friday. Or happy Preparation Day if you happen to be Jewish. Playing some Hunter Primal. Game looks really good for some reason. Better than usual, I don't know why. Let me get this crate over here. So I hope you're all doing well. I'm okay, but I kind of woke up with like I don't know, my head is kind of in one of those pre-migraine modes where there's like, I feel a lot of pressure, but it's not pounding. I wouldn't consider it like pain, but it's just, I kind of know when there's a good chance one might be creeping up. I had a long week, busy week. You know, we still have virtual school, and then some schools are half day, you know, half half virtual, half day. You got then you got online, then you got partial school, partial online during the week. You know, it's a lot of work, you know. I'm sure those who have kids understand that. So, you know, it's a good thing that I'm home. I mean, I have to be home anyway. I mean, we can't afford daycare for 3 kids. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So it's cheaper for us for, you know, one of us to stay home. But it's kind of essential right now with the pandemic, obviously. So, in that respect, it worked out, you know. I wonder if I should go down here and see if there's a wreck since I'm way over here. I wanted to try to stay close to my son over there, but whatever. Making some noise here. See if we can get some wrecks over here. Couple. I don't know why my wrist is bothering me. I guess, you know, I'm up too high or something. I don't know if I need to raise up the table or I can't put my seat down anymore. So I think that's the problem. I need to raise the table up, but the problem is the table, if I raise it, it's like way up. So I don't know. I'll have to figure something out. Maybe I'll use that little black table. That one's a little different. I'll do it later though. Yeah, I'm forgetting the controls here. Really? Wow. So I'm gonna try not to get too, you know, political today. I mean, although I'm kind of getting a little tired of the word political. I mean, some of the topics that people are talking about are not necessarily political. I mean, they've been politicized, and I guess, you know, in order to resolve some of the issues that people are facing or complaining about, you know, the left tends to focus on the social issues, which, you know, most of us are past. I mean, most of us do not are not racist. Most of us do not believe that our systems are systemically racist, as they like to use that term. Um, because, you know, especially here in America, for a long time, you know, minorities have had many benefits. You know, we've had free schooling for a long time. If you didn't have medical care, you know, they can't stop you from getting treated in a hospital. And if you didn't have ample medical coverage or none at all, then we have what we call charity care that paid for, you know, a good portion of it, and sometimes all of it, depending on your circumstances. Um, you know, we've had these social programs in place for a long time, and this is why some people are upset with this push to to make things more extreme, right? Because, you know, as people who have been on the middle, and even some people who are on the right, have made compromises to appease to the what used to be liberal side, but now is what we call leftist side, because it's really not liberal anymore. It's basically my way or the highway kind of thinking. So that's not liberal, you know what I mean? Liberal comes from the word liberated, right? Liberated. So if you're under tyranny, you're not liberated. If it's my way or the highway, that's not a liberated system. I mean, by any means. So um, I don't know if people actually think about what they're fighting for when they fight for this totalitarian kind of rule. But it's not freedom, you know, and it's not liberation, you know. So that shouldn't be controversial to anybody, what I just said. So, I mean, everybody wants to be free, right? I mean, I don't understand why somebody argues when somebody says they want their freedom. Like, well, I don't know where that comes from, what's going on in their brains, or how they can argue against that, right? So, for some reason, just people have been scared by this um, dystopian kind of science that's taught, um, where, you know, the Earth is, you know, before it was, you know, the Earth is going to be destroyed by an asteroid, you know, uh, the Earth is going to be destroyed by sucking all the oil out of the ground, and then we're going to be, you know, uh, left without energy sources. Um, then it was pollution. Um, so now it's climate change. You know, doomsday is coming. You know, the whole Earth is going to do something weird, and we're all going to suffer and die from it. So it's like, uh, I don't even know. Like, I don't know how people get convinced of this. Like, I understand you get taught in school, but even as a student, um, I always like thought about what the teachers or professors said to me, and even if they threw charts at me and data sheets and all this other stuff, you still have to read between the lines. You know what I'm saying? And you can't just accept everything that is thrown at you. You know, that's where freedom of thought comes in, right? You have the power and the means to think for yourself, right? And to come to your own conclusions, right? Not only about what's happening around you, but also about how you feel, um, also about what you're being taught, you know? Um, Not being forced to do something against your will, you know? Um, because that's what we call tyranny, right? Tyranny. Like everybody, like when we use the word tyranny, it seems like people get triggered, you know? So it's like the woman, I forget her name, sorry. I don't watch The Mandalorian, so but the actress, actor, actress, whatever you call them these days. Um, she just got removed from the show, or fired in other terms, because of a tweet she made about World War II and what was happening before, the Nazis started, oppressing the Jews and jailing them and then finally going to war. So, um, that why is that controversial? I don't understand. This is what a certain political group is doing, is dividing people, dividing society purposely. This is not something that's being done. Um, well, it's not. It was being done by behind the scenes, obviously, for many, many years, because we apparently weren't aware of it. Some of us. So, and say what you will. We were busy working, living our lives. We weren't thinking about like anybody loving communism. Like, why would you love communism or even socialism? That was always something. Even as a liberal, we believed was bad. Now obviously there were some liberals who were sympathetic to that, I guess, and they were just kind of faking, you know, I guess hating communism and stuff, but in behind the scenes they were teaching people the opposite. So that's one of the reasons I finally left the Democrat Party, is because like after looking over the past 30 years, I just was like, I can't be a part of this system anymore. You know, this kind of, you know, because it's like what we were being taught back in the 70s is like way different than what we're being taught today. You know, so it's like, and they were teaching what they were teaching back then because it was in opposition to the other party, so to speak. So whatever's in opposition to the other party, that's what they're going to adhere to. So like today, it's racism, right? There's racism everywhere. That's today's rhetoric. So, but that's not. But see, they're painting a picture that that's opposition to the other side when that's not true at all. I mean, I've never, you know, been a racist or practiced bigotry. Now, you can nitpick here and there and say, well, did you ever get scared when, a black guy walked down the street, blah, blah, blah? Well, that all depends on, like, how they look, you know? I mean, I could have the same reaction to a white guy, who's dressed like what we perceive as being a thug, right? I mean, I'm not going to say I was or wasn't. I'm just saying that's just a silly argument to say that. I mean, what's up, Echo? How you doing? So, but again, I was raised by a black man for the last 9 years of my childhood. So, I mean, if I'm a bigot, then everybody's a bigot. I mean, because, I mean, how do you become a bigot when you're raised by a black person? I mean, if anything, he would be raising me to do what the left does, right? Hate white people, hate yourself, you know. But he wasn't like that. He didn't that wasn't his thinking. His thinking was he loved his freedom, he loved his country, he fought for his country. He was in two armed forces. Now, I'm not going to say that he was a conservative or even a diehard Republican, but he might have voted Democrat for all I know. But the values that he held were conservative values. Okay, so um, for the most part, he taught us to, work hard, succeed, or whatever. Just if don't complain about things, you know, go fight for what you want, go out, and get what you want, not dishonestly, or take from other people. He always taught us, you earn your keep by hard work, you know. So I mean, that's kind of the values I grew up with. Now, did we have a perfect relationship? No, he was my stepfather. There's always going to be some kind of tension sometimes, but you know, overall, I had a great amount of respect for him. So I mean, I loved him, called him dad. So there's no. He didn't like me calling him dad, actually. He wanted me to call him by his first name. You know, because he was saying he used to tell me I'm not your dad. And I said, well, but you know, you're filling the role as my dad. I want to call you dad. I mean, after a while, he eventually just kind of, what's up, Joe? After a while, he eventually just accepted the fact that we wanted to call him dad. He still didn't prefer it, but, you know, that's just how we saw him, you know. His skin color made no difference, So, again, this argument that somehow the opposition to the left is all that they accuse them to be is just false. 100% false. So, um, so anyway, freedom of thought. I don't want to get, again, too on the political side. So again, freedom of thought, what is that? I explained it just before, you know. We have, in order to truly be yourself, okay, which is what the argument was for many years, right? When I grew up in the 70s, we were all, you know, yes, there was some religious groups speaking against the heightened sexual push, in society, the sex, the drugs, this kind of stuff that was kind of like coming out into the open, so to speak, and they were like, well, we should be able to be free to do what we want and live how we want and da 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 da. This was the left back then, right? So, again, stark difference than today. Today it's like you do as we say or else. That's kind of like the mentality now. Forget about your freedom. We don't care about that anymore. You know? So, it's like such a flip, So again, those of us who are older see the big picture. It's unfortunate that the young people, all they see is a little sliver, and then they're fed all this like misinformation and cherry-picked data, incomplete data, and then they just kind of fall into this trap of, whoa, man, we're oppressed and we're this and we're that, and you're doing this and you're doing that, without really talking to the other side, right? And seeing where they're coming from. Talking to conservatives and seeing where they're coming from. Talking to the middle people who just want to live their life and not have any conflict in society, But they're taught to not listen to the other side. They're taught not to listen to an alternate viewpoint, you see? So I mean, that's basically how a cult works, you know? It's funny that they call the people conservatives and whatnot a cult. It's like, no, we're the ones who are for freedom and, choice and freedom of thought, personal individual rights, that kind of stuff, which is what everybody should want. You know, again, I don't understand the mentality of like why people get triggered when you talk about that. You know, but again, it all comes down to this bad science of doomsday. You know, climate change doomsday. You know, oil is evil. You know, that kind of stuff. And now natural gas is evil, even though that's very clean. Um, they don't want nuclear power, even though that's clean, very clean. Nuclear power is the cleanest energy out there. Um, at least cleanest in the sense of it produces so much power versus the any negative, right? So nuclear power, if you want to like fight climate change, that's what you would be shooting for. You know, you wouldn't be shooting for solar panels and windmills and or even more dams per se. You know, you'd be shooting for nuclear power. Where's that guy? There he is. So again, we would be on board with like fighting this like fake climate change doomsday if it made sense, but it doesn't make sense. You know, solar panels and windmills, I mean, they cause first of all, how are you going to produce all them? It takes, you know, it's going to take a lot of energy to produce them, right? Which means you're going to have to burn oil or some kind of petroleum product or natural gas or whatever. Like, in order to like, and windmills are made of what? Plastic, fiberglass, metal? I mean, that's all like very dangerous to the environment. You know, it may not be an issue now because there's only a few here and there, you know? But I mean, you start putting them out on a mass scale, you know, to power a country the size of ours. Look at this guy. This guy stuck in a tree. Whoa, he came through that. Sometimes the trees are not your friend. He's just coming right through these trees, man. Don't like that. Your girlfriend left you to go to the bar every day? Okay. You don't go to the bar? I'm not telling you to, but you know, I don't drink really anymore. I mean, it's very far in between if I do drink anything, but it's usually not to get drunk. Oh. Man, this thing won't die. tree again. Let's do something different. We gotta do something different. Oh, this tree is not good. About time. So, freedom of thought, freedom to question, freedom to choose. And then freedom of conscience is always, again, something that we were taught in, in school, whatever, when we were growing up. I mean, I didn't go to private school or anything. Went to public school, got a liberal, education, so to speak. Now all of a sudden it's like, in order for you to be, if you want to be an individual, then somehow you're demonized for that. If you feel convicted to do other than what you're told, or other than what the mainstream tells you, then somehow you're demonized, right? If you want to be religious, primarily Christian, because, they seem to be the only ones that get criticized for some reason. Well, I know the reason, but, if you want to be a Christian, I mean, certainly you're going to be demonized for that. So, again, this is the same behavior that the papacy was practicing during the 1260 years during the Dark Ages, from, mid 500s to 1798, until the Pope, got taken captive and, put in prison and died in prison. The Catholic Church still didn't lose its power per se, but it lost its political power for a little while. The papacy didn't control people through religion. I mean, that was part of it because of the doctrine, obviously. It's more of a make you feel guilty if you don't do something, kind of a doctrine. And that's basically, kind of like how the left works, right? In order for them to try to get you to accept something, they make you feel guilty first, you know? Because otherwise, if you don't think this way, then you're this. If you don't do that, then you're this. That's like there's like a, there's always a, a an accusation attached to what they're trying to convince you of if you don't choose to be convinced of it. So you're kind of like a lot of times guilted into accepting the rhetoric, right? So that's exactly like how the papacy worked, right, with the Catholic religion. And I'm not bashing Catholics or anything. We're talking about the institution here, right? The the doctrines, not the people. So um, so it's similar, but the papacy really got their power from the state, right? They had all the states on their side, right? All the kings, ooh, another one, paid homage to the papacy. So their power came from not only the doctrine that they taught, which was kind of like works based. You're going to go to hell if you don't do this, blah blah blah. You have to do this, otherwise you're not being, very whatever they call it, charitable. Sound familiar? So, ooh, this is not a good spot. So it's the same kind of a thing. It's the same tactic. So, but the papacy got their power from mixing themselves with the state, right? There was a joint uh, cooperation there, you know. So the papacy had a hold on the kings, because the kings, because of the doctrines, didn't want to go to purgatory, didn't want to go to hell, didn't want to burn forever and ever as is taught by the Catholic Church. So, they were kind of beholden. So because of that, they said, well, if anybody goes against the church, then we're going to put you in prison, or we're going to persecute you, or whatever the case is. Or you'll get burned at the stake if you teach anything opposite. So it's the same exact thing. This is like the Dark Ages all over again, So it may not look as extreme as it did back then yet, but it's getting there. I mean, so freedom of conscience, the martyrs, the Christian martyrs, put their lives on the line to say, look, there's some bad teachings here in the Catholic Church and that are not in line with the Bible, and we think that they should be corrected. They weren't even calling for an end to the papacy per se. Another one. Wow, I got another Rex. So, but they just wanted things to be corrected, right? So a lot of the martyrs were Catholics themselves. It wasn't like outsiders coming in and trying to change anything. So it's the same today. If you speak against the rhetoric that the media is spewing out, or the rhetoric that the Democrats are spewing out, then you're threatened, you're canceled, you're killed in some cases, because they've had that happen during the riots. And then, of course, that guy in Washington who stabbed 4 people, the Antifa guy, it's just, you're just allowed to go around just stabbing people, and no one really makes a big stink about it. I mean, I guess he must have I'm assuming he better have gotten arrested, but there was no big deal. Like, oh, it was just, whatever. Trump supporters or conservatives or whatever. I don't really know what the protest was about, but I'm assuming it was some kind of conservative protest. Um, so yeah, so freedom of conscience paved the way when they fought for this concept, which is what it kind of formed into, right? Because as the Catholic Church fought back so heavily against the martyrs, it turned into the argument of, well, freedom of conscience here. You know, we need freedom of conscience. You can't just like dictate what we can believe and what we can't believe. Because if we want to believe in the Bible and what the Bible says, then we should be allowed to do that. The church should not be threatening us because that's not, Christ-like or God-like or whatever. You know. So they're the ones that champion freedom of conscience, and they're the ones responsible for you having the freedoms that you have today that are now being taken away again. You know, and you know, dare I say that the Catholic Church has its hand in this today, right? Because they are totally on board with what the left is doing. Right? Because they already talked about Climate Sunday. Let's have a Climate Sunday, whatever. I don't know what it's about, but and they also champion what they call the common good, where they're all for the state dictating what the common good is versus what you want to do, versus what you think is good, you know. So again, that's taking away your freedom of conscience, freedom of thought, freedom of religion even, but again, when you lose your freedom of conscience, right? If freedom of conscience is taken away, all the other rights are gone. Right? They're gone because that's the one that's the foundation for them all. So this is where we're at now. You can't you can't even decide on what's right on your own. You have to accept what the scientists say, what the experts say, what the politicians say, what the media says, what your professors say. It's like otherwise you're deemed as, you're demonized. Okay, that's the word I'll use um, for that. So, oh, sucker. So somehow people have been convinced that freedom somehow is a bad thing. Dag on this guy. We've all been duped into thinking that freedom is evil. And that somehow this new doctrine of common good is what you must adhere to at all costs. Otherwise you're some bad person. But who decides what's good? I mean, if God doesn't decide what's good, who never changes, right? Because that's the whole point there. Like, why is it, well, you say, well, God or the Bible decides what's good and what's not. Well, the Bible never changes, right? That's something that's always going to stay the same, right? So that's something you could take to the bank, you know? And the Bible doesn't teach hatred as, they're being taught today. It actually teaches tolerance quite a bit. Now, it's very direct on what it says God is displeased with, and it's very clear about the consequences if you continue to practice what God is displeased with, right? But nowhere in the Bible does it say put people to death if they disagree with you. You see what I'm saying? Or take away people's freedom. And bringing up how God, worked in Canaan with all the tribes and stuff. Well, that's people that don't know their Bible. Yes, of course God fought the battles for the Israelites, and many people died. But there was also people that died on the Israel side too. So it's not like there was just a countless slaughter of people. I mean, the pagans were practicing some very evil things. You know, they were doing human sacrifice and sacrificing their babies. You know, so um, God just didn't decide to hate the Canaanites for no reason. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he didn't really. He hated what they were doing. Didn't really hate them. You know? What's up, Rares YT Gaming? Now, you know, again, if people don't know their Bible, they just think that God just killed everybody. That wasn't the case. There was some people that, you know, uh, repented of what they were doing and they were spared. So, you know, with God, there's always mercy if there's room for it, you know. But that has to be the choice of the individual. I'm not going to try to get into Bible stuff. I'm just making the point that, you know, despite the martyrs being religious, it's because of them that we have our freedom of conscience, and not just them, but those who afterward did all the work to try to secure our freedoms today. You know, um, I mean, even in Europe, you know what freedoms they had. They can thank the martyrs for that. They can thank all the people who stood up for, you know, what was actually right. You know, for human beings. Um, and now people are just like, I don't know, they love throwing away their freedom. Like they love giving it away. Like that's all I've really been saying anytime I talk about this stuff is like, think about what you're doing. Think about what's happening here. This is not about preventing climate change doomsday or or doing away with the evil oil, because oil is not going to be done away with. Okay? All the politicians are going to do with the oil is sell it to China and other countries. You know, like for some reason people think that the oil is just going to be, they're going to shut off the pumps and turn off the gas, and we're just going to be running on solar and wind and you know, luck, and that's what's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the politicians are going to sell the oil to China and whoever else, Russia maybe, I don't know who, and make billions, and they're going to be sitting in their high towers looking down at us who voted away our freedom, laughing, right? Laughing. What the same thing that they're doing in Venezuela. It's the same thing that they did in Venezuela. You know, they did the whole racial thing, rich versus poor thing. You know, they did the same exact thing, and this is the sad part: is that they were a open example of what not to do, and here we are. Here we are. People are just adopting the same system. So Venezuela is now contracted with China, and they sell oil to them, and you know, have a partnership with them. And you know, this is it. So we're just going to basically aid our enemy. And everybody here is going to be paying super high taxes. I mean, yeah, maybe everybody will have some form of health care, but it's not going to be what you think it is. It's not going to be what you think it is. I mean, the government just isn't going to be able to give people everything that they need and everything they want. It's not sustainable. Like, if people just live haughty lives or lives of folly, as it used to be called, you know, riotous lifestyle, you know, drugs, drinking, all that stuff now. And, you know, I mean, how many times do you think that the government is going to be able to take you in because you have cancer again, because they fixed the cancer and then you went back to your old lifestyle, which is what usually happens, right? Most people, they don't fix their lifestyle, even if they are threatened with cancer or something like that. Some do, but not all. I mean, how many times do you think they're going to go back and operate on you or do these very expensive procedures? I mean, after a while, they're just going to say, well, you know, you're just going to have to wait because there's lots of other people in line. I mean, that's what actually happens. Yeah, they might take you in for a broken leg, you know, or if you get in a car accident or something like that, you know, that's kind of an emergency situation per se because it was unexpected, you know, unplanned. So yeah, that's fine. But anything other than that, I mean, serious operations, cancer treatments, and all this other stuff is not going to be what you think it is. You know, that's just untrue. It's unsustainable. You know. So anyway, so just think about it. That's all I'm saying. Think about what you're giving up if you're on the left, or if you are thinking about what they're saying. They're asking you to give up your freedom of conscience and freedom of thought. That's what they're asking you to do. It's got nothing to do with climate doomsday, oil versus clean energy, as they call it, you know, because if you do your research, clean energy is not very clean. You still have to make it, and you still have to somehow get rid of it when it breaks down. And they break down quite quickly, you know, because they're out, number one, they're out in nature. So, you know, that's the worst kind of environment to be in. You know, at least nuclear power, you're inside of a sarcophagus or whatever you call them, an enclosure, you know, so the equipment in there is not rusting away, you know, out in the elements and stuff like that. So those things last a very long time. And, you know, they produce a lot of power with a little bit amount of fuel. So, again, if this was really about saving the planet, then they would just simply adopt nuclear because it's very clean, it's safe, you know. They have a lot of redundancies in place now, you know. Of course, you can never prepare for like an earthquake or, you know, something like that, but I mean, they're not usually built in earthquake-prone areas, you know. Not normally, anyway. So you can't really use Fukushima as an example and say, oh, well, look at that. But since that accident, I mean, they've learned more about how to be safer, you know, so they have nuclear they have new nuclear designs that are much more safe than even Fukushima and all of them, you know. So they're kind of old, you know. So any new design is going to have like be super redundant, you know, and uh, have processes that actually, if it starts overheating, it actually cools itself down. So they have ways in order to do it now where if something goes wrong, then it's like a self-correcting kind of a system. So you're not going to have a meltdown, you know, like you did in Russia, in the Ukraine, or any kind of a issue like in Fukushima. So again, just that's all I'm saying. You know, obviously vote however you want to vote, think however you want to think, but just think about what you're thinking about. Think about what you're believing in. Think about what you're accepting from the professors and the teachers and the media especially, and the politicians especially, because they're just spewing out what is going to help them, right? What is going to only help their cause, whether it's correct or not correct. They don't care. So, um, conservatives are not these evil people that you think they are. You know what I'm saying? Um, they're just people that believe in freedom of conscience, freedom of thought. It, which has nothing to do with being racist or a bigot. It just has to do with you being an individual. You being somebody who you want to be. You being somebody who wants to do what you want to do. This is the weird thing. Like, this is what the liberals were teaching back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? Um, because they were fighting against the religious wing of the Republican Party, right? Because a lot of people were still religious back then, and they should be today, but I'm not going to get into that. But so that's the only reason they were saying that. It wasn't because they actually believed that. It was just helping their cause, helping them grow in power, right? So you you have to strip God out of the picture, right? Once you take God out of the picture, once you take faith out of the picture, once you take religion out of the picture, right? Then you can start bringing in secular stuff. And once you do that, once you create a secular mind in a person, right? Once you get somebody to convince that all there is what you see around you and that's it, nothing more, then they can do what they're doing today. Put fear into you, right? Because if you don't believe in God, then you don't believe in anything worth believing in, right? Because all you're believing in is your TV, your phone, your work, stuff that eventually you're going to lose because you're going to die, right? All of us are going to die one day. So if you don't have faith, if you don't have something to hold on to that is worth more than anything anybody could give you, right? Oh, jeez. These guys are quiet today. Right? Because the one thing the martyrs had was their faith. Right? The one thing that the martyrs had was their belief. And that's the one thing that no one can ever take away from you, is your faith, is your beliefs. They can hurt you, they can kill you, but they can never take away your faith and your beliefs. So what is your life worth to you? Is it worth just living, feeding the pleasures of your life? What we call, what the world calls pleasure, but there's many things in life that you can take pleasure in that don't involve drinking, that don't involve drugs, smoking cigarettes. I mean, I'm a testament to that. I used to do drugs and drink a lot and whatnot. So before I gave it up, I was thinking, man, I don't know if I can give this up. But once I gave it up, I look back now and go, well, why was I so invested in getting drunk and doing drugs and all that? I said, so now, because that's all a trick in your own mind, that you tell yourself, I can't feel good unless I do this. I cannot have fun unless I do this. Everything comes down to everything comes down to how you perceive things. So now I have fun, with family. I have fun just being outside in nature, hiking, going to the ocean. That's enough for me. Watching my favorite TV shows or whatever. I don't watch much TV, but you get my point. Taking up a hobby like, whatever, if you do like arts and crafts or music. I mean, there's so many things in life that can give you pleasure that don't hurt your body. you know, that don't compromise your thinking, you know. Um, so again, back to the faith and belief. That's the one thing that people can't take away from you. So if all you think about is the things of this world and all you're investing your whole energy into is just living this life and dying, I mean, you know, you might as well be dead already. I mean, because if you don't believe in the afterlife, if you don't believe that God created everything and everything didn't just create itself. Again, think about that a little bit, you know. Everything created itself. This is what the scientists convince people of. Okay? Well, everything can't create itself if it wasn't there to begin with. Okay? That's just all that's the whole argument right there. Like there's no I don't need to convince anybody of anything else. Um but whatever, people can believe what they want to believe, okay? But so anyway, that's it. Freedom of conscience, freedom of thought. Think about that a little bit when you vote. Are you voting to increase it or decrease it? You know? If you're voting to decrease it, then are you really voting the right way? I mean, are you really helping people by forcing a good majority of the population of the world to do something against their will? Hey, sportsman, what's up, bro? You know, in the argument of, well, we know better and you don't. Really? I mean, that's not even a viable argument. You know, a parent can say that to a child, right? But you can't tell me that billions of people in the world are somehow stupid. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't foolish people in the world. There are. But, I mean, come on. That's just being a little disheartening to many, 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 many billions of people. Because, again, you have to understand, a lot of people are not on board with what's going on in the world. That's why you have outcries in Europe, outcries in Asia, outcries here. You know, the real revolution is not the left. The revolution is fighting against the left, right? And when I say fight, I'm not talking about shooting somebody or hurting somebody. I'm talking about, you know, when you fight for your rights. You know, you speak up for those things, you know. So now the Democrats want to say the word fight is somehow bad because Trump said it. But they were saying it for, what, 4 years? Basically, 3 years, 4 years. They're allowed to say fight, but Trump isn't. I mean, it's just silly stuff. I mean, I don't know why people just don't see through it, but anyway. What's up, Herky? So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Again, none of what I said should even be political. That should just be something everybody should want. You know, because in my mind, I don't understand why people want to give away their freedom. I don't understand that. For what? You know? You should never sell your freedom for anything. Period. I'm not on target with this thing today. I'm doing okay. I mean, pretty good. I mean, you know, I woke up a little weird in the head with the migraine issue, but it seems to be leveling off a bit now, so I'm feeling better, thank God. You're in the hospital. Why, Herky? What happened? And I was thinking earlier today, like, you know, there's some countries where people can still hunt, like, they still have that freedom. And I wonder that the people in those countries, you know, who have these, like, social systems, excuse me. Hey, Sam, what's up? Yeah, it is sad it's no longer updated. I really wish they would release, I don't know. I wish that they would enable modding for it. I don't understand why they don't do that. Let the community fix the game, right? It's fast. Such a pain. He's flying away now, huh? Wonderful. Well, see, that's the thing, and I'm not saying specifically you sportsmen, but it seems like a lot of people, like even people who go out and hunt, they kind of allowed this social choker to come in, right? Yes, you have your right to hunt, but there's the rights of others being taken away who would like to do things they want to do. And you know, I just wonder if like you guys missed missed that, you know, in supporting the social construct that they want to implement in the whole entire world, you know. Um, See, I don't have to hunt to support hunting, right? I support hunters because it's one of their rights. So I'm the type of person that supports your rights too, even if they don't really apply to me, you know? So, and I'm referring to like a lot of the Scandinavian countries especially, you know, because they're still allowed to hunt, but they have their social programs in place, you know, which again are not all what the media and the Democrats are making it out to be so nice and perfect. It's not. There's a lot of issues people are having that aren't talked about in the mainstream media, and people have come forward and testified. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. You guys can do all that research yourself. You're not stupid. So, you know, sometimes I wonder if like people compromise because they weren't hurt by, you know, what's happening per se. So I just implore everybody to not just think about yourself in the respect of rights, but think about other people's rights too. You know, fight for the rights of others. And I'm not talking about the right to entitlements. That's not personal rights. Like, you know, you getting a benefit by sucking off of someone else's income is not a right. That's called stealing. That's called taking. Now, just people might say, well, it's law, so how is it stealing if it's the law? Well, again, if you're going to look at everything strictly secular, then fine. Then that means people can just be thrown in the prison just because the government says so. Because they've given themselves the right to do that. Does it make it right? You know? So, you know, this is why, again, the principles of that revolve around what used to be traditional principles that were based on, you know, biblical principles. Whether the government was civil or not, the laws were based on biblical principles, you know, so that's why society was able to function. Um, you know, so we have to think about the rights of others, not just be like, well, I'm not really affected by this, so there's nothing for me to really do. You know, but your neighbor down the road is getting persecuted for having a business of his own, or she's persecuted because of her religious beliefs, or you know what I'm saying? So, um, or they're persecuted because they don't agree with having to pay 50% tax because we implement all these social programs, so it's, if you want to say that you're not selfish, stealing from others doesn't make you unselfish. Fighting for the rights of others makes you unselfish because you're thinking about that other person's well-being. You're thinking about their conscience, you know? And if people want to come forward and speak against, you know, the rhetoric that's being thrown out there that is not accurate or that is misinformation to try to falsely prove a point, um, we need to stand up for them. And this is what the girl basically was saying, who, is in the Mandalorian. I forget her name, Gina something. She was taken off the show now because she just simply brought up something in a tweet that was saying, "Don't demonize your neighbor," because that's what the Nazis were promoting before they took power. you know, so that's all she was saying. So I don't see why that's controversial unless you're the one actually doing it. If you're upset by that, then you're the one that's doing it. So is it the right doing it? Is it the left doing it? Is it middle people doing it? Is it conservatives doing it? I mean, it's pretty obvious who's really doing it. Hey, you might have dumb people on all perspectives, but there's predominantly one side who's demonizing everyone else. So, I'm pretty sure that you're smart enough to know who that is. And is that really what you want to be as a person? I mean, somebody said they were a good person to me on a stream. Ooh, heavyweight. But yet left 2 messages on one of my videos that were basically saying I'm a bigot. They made fun of me when I was talking about my stepfather who was black. They said that I was a terrorist, and then they went forward to criticize me about having kids and said that I'm abusing my kids and I probably molest my kids. I mean, that's pretty harsh stuff to say. You know what I'm saying? With number one, no evidence, and the person not really knowing me personally. So is this the kind of people that you want to support? Because this is what's happening all over the place. This is what the media never talks about. This is why I left the Democrat Party, as I stated before. Because as a Democrat, I was being demonized by my fellow Democrats, who, of course, then I didn't realize that they were basically taken over by the left side. This hard left ideology. So ask yourself, is that really what you want to support? And then you still want to call yourself a good person? I mean, I don't call myself good. I'm not good. I got a lot of problems, imperfections. But, I don't go around, though, just, ostracizing people, canceling people, wishing they were dead. You know what I'm saying? calling for their imprisonment. I mean, if anything, you know, I would say that some of these politicians before who were saying, really the ones who were actually inciting other people hurting other people would be the ones that were breaking the law, you know? Trying to get the vertebrae there. He's gonna get me eventually. That hurt her. I probably went right down the spine with that shot. Okay. Oh, there's another one. I hear another one. I can't get up. Oh yeah, there we go. I forgot how to do it. So used to the other games now. There we go. Oh, there's another one down there. Let me hurry up. But spine. Let's see how much spine. Oh, not too many, but yeah, I got a few here. They don't like that. So if the game crashes, I'll probably end the stream, but you know, hopefully that won't happen. Come on, stop. There we go. Come on. You gonna walk away now? There you go. Might be another one up here. I have to look. Whew, butchered that one up. Ooh, it's hot in here. Ugh, got the heat running. There we go, nice fresh air. Whew. What'd you say? Oh, I'm sorry, sportsman. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, well, of course, but everything else that was put in place. I mean, I used to go to Canada a lot, and I've talked to people in Canada, and back in the late 2000s or late 1990s and early 2000s, the majority of people that I talked to in Canada did not want to have the system that you guys have there today. I'm not saying that there was a majority that, in the country that didn't want it, but it's pretty extraordinary that everyone that I talked to, 100% were like, we don't want these things here, you know? So yeah, the government did have their hand in it. You know what I'm saying? The government has their hand in it. They're the ones who make the laws and force people to do what they do. And that's my point. Like here, there's 80 million voters who do not want, this national socialism coming in here. And so, do their rights not matter? So you're just going to say, well, it doesn't matter. We're just going to force them to do it because we know it's best, or it's because we want. We don't care. So that's not being representative of your citizens, you know. Now I don't know if there could ever be a compromise where, half the country has the social systems and half don't, because you still have to tax everybody to pay for it all, and then even then it doesn't get paid for. The system over time either just breaks down or people just get pushed down further on the social economic status scale, you know. It's just that as time goes by, people don't realize it because they grow up in the next generation who says, "Oh, I'm making a lot of money," or whatever the case is, and then but an older person will say, "No, you don't make a lot of money." You're not. When we were growing up, things were cheaper. Inflation wasn't so high, and all this other thing. You know what I'm saying? So it isn't better. It's just that people don't see the degradation, right? Because you would have to live a long time to witness how destructive it is, and how it smushes kind of everybody down into like this. Everybody's down here on this economic scale, you know, area, and then you got all the elites and politicians up here, and the rich. You see what I'm saying? So you're actually making a wider gap between the rich and what we would call the regular people, you know? So, yeah, that's a lot of money, bro. That's crazy. Yeah, I know. That's what they're talking about here. Vaccinating all the illegal immigrants that are here. Well, they say undocumented, but they're illegal. you know? Now, some might have temporary, whatever, some kind of a temporary thing to wait if they're getting their documents, but that's not what they're talking about. And again, it's just a dumb argument. Like, we're obviously nobody's against people getting vaccinated. I mean, it's like, but yeah, you take care of your citizens first, always. Like that. I mean, that's like a no-brainer. Like, I don't even know why that's even, why people even are like, you know, would argue against that. You know, it's like, and that's what I'm saying. Most people don't agree with this rhetoric, but they're being forced to accept it, right? Because, I mean, what can we do without starting a revolution? I mean, there's really nothing you can do. And most people obviously don't want to start a revolution. I mean, it's just pretty obvious because most people, again, back to my original argument, most people are secular. So they're scared to put their lives on the line. Because if you don't have God, then you have nothing else after death. You only have what this world has to offer in your short 70 to 80 years, if you live that long. So most people are not going to sacrifice their life, you know, um, to fight for what is actually right, you know. The Bible in Revelation calls one of the churches the Church of Laodicea, and it says they are rich and found wanting, you know. It means that they're comfortable in their little bubble, and they're not concerned about their salvation. They're not concerned about their spirituality, their spiritual condition. They're not concerned about um, their need for God or anything like that. So this is really the state of everybody, not just the Christians today who are very complacent also. It's everybody is. You know, we're kind of like stuck into this consumerism. And I don't have a problem with buying things, but we're too attached to our things, right? We're too attached to our social status. We're too attached to our money. You know, we're not willing to be uncomfortable. We're not willing to sacrifice. We're not willing to rough it, to go through the mud. You know, to get something good going. You know. And most of the time, we're not well. We finally end up becoming willing to fight for something when it's already taken away from us. And I'm guilty of that too. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that. Obviously, I didn't. I was very unaware of what was going on around me, and that's one of the things that I try to tell people. At least stay informed. You know, at least you got your vote. Well, at least we hope we do. I mean, after this election, it might be rigged forever now to only go to one side, you know, because we all know statistically who should have won. It's just, we all know that. It has nothing to do with what Trump said. Oop. I'm trying to read. What are you doing? Bring around. That's weird. He kept going in circles. Usually they just run away. This is not good for me. I'm making too much attention. I'm trying to read your thing here. I got attacked. Oh man, what's going on? These guys are so quiet today. We got more? Stay away from me. That's what people are like. You work 70 hours a week. Yes, I work crazy hours, but after the government takes their share and all, it's not the same amount anymore, nor even close to it. No, I mean, right, and like that's what people don't realize. Like they're working. People are complaining today that they're working hard and they're not getting anywhere. So why do you think that taking 50% of your income away is going to make it better? I mean, fine. So you have what you are thinking is going to be national health care, some kind of good national health care. So that's what you're selling your life for? Like, again, my argument before was add up how much money you give the government each year in taxes, and then add that up over, like, say, if you worked 30 years or 40 years in your life, okay? Let's say you lived 80 and you worked 40, right? How much money could you save, you know, in that time period? And is it really worth you not enjoying life? Not having that more free time that you wanted to have, you could have had to go on nice vacations and everything else, which, maybe you can do that, sportsman. I don't know what kind of money you make, but a lot of people wouldn't be able to do that. They would just be like stuck at home watching TV, never going anywhere. I mean, they would be all for the sake of what? National health care? All for the sake of what? Saving what they think is saving the planet from some kind of doomsday farce, which is, again, based on speculation only. And when I mean speculation, it's high speculation. It's 100% conjecture. Again, those of us who lived a long time, we've been hearing about global warming and what they now call climate change, which is weird. But that's because you can't argue it, right? Because if you say we don't believe in climate change, what do you mean there's no climate change? Climate's changing all the time. Well, okay, but that's not what you're talking about here, right? You're talking about global warming, a shift in the Earth's. I hate when it only does one. Die already. What is up with these guys? Did it die? Thought I saw it drop to the ground. Right, and you well, may I ask, you don't have to answer, obviously, but may I ask how much you actually make a year gross? I don't know with the calculator. My laptop just froze. Come on, don't start acting up on me now. We going back to this again? Right, so you are given, you're putting in 1 million. 40,000 into taxes, right? So, a lot of people are going to be putting in more than that with this tax situation, you know? And then people that work so hard to even get up to make more money, you know what I mean? They're going to be essentially taxed more. Like, in other words, people, I wonder, people, why would people have an incentive to make more than, like, say, like in Sweden or whatever, they have, like, people that, I think make under $50,000 a year. They don't get the 50% tax. I think they get, like, a lesser tax or whatever. I mean, what is going to be the incentive of people making over 50,000 a year if um, you're essentially getting punished for making more money, right? Versus somebody who makes under 50,000 a year. Like this is again the questions that never get asked. You see, so because like for me personally, you would have to make 100 grand a year, over $100,000 a year for it to be beneficial for you to make more money, right? Because then you'll be able to actually keep 50,000 or more of your money. You see? But if you make 60,000 a year, then you're going to only end up with 30 versus somebody, so you're going to be making less than somebody who makes $45,000 a year. So, yeah. So I mean, where is the logic in all this? Right, exactly. So, yeah. Well, see, you're in a unique situation where you do have a farm or whatever you do. I mean, I'm just saying, a lot of people don't have the benefit of writing off stuff. I don't know what your tax, code is there in Canada or your province or whatever, but here farmers can write stuff off and all that stuff. So, I kind of put farmers in a whole different category. I'm talking about like the majority of people who are not farmers, right? So, um, they're not going to have those write-offs. They're not going to have those tax breaks per se. I mean, the Democrats don't even want to give you like a tax credit for having kids. You know what I'm saying? Like Republicans always want to give tax credit for you having kids. They encourage you having kids. Whereas Democrats encourage less kids and want more immigrants. Because when an immigrant comes in, they grab them right away, they indoctrinate them, and say, oh, the bad people here are the Republicans or conservatives or people that have guns or whatever the case is. You must be on our side because we're here for you. I mean, this is what really happens, and it happens through the media, it happens through school, it happens through these groups that are all over the country that recruit you, right? So this is what people don't hear about. They don't understand the extent of what's going on because the media never will talk about it. So, yeah. So anyway, yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, I believe in the Bible. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm Mr. Saint, but Bible prophecy is very clear, and it's been 100% spot on about everything, including what's going on today. I predicted all this. That's why I'm not surprised by it, but I should have been more aware of things that were happening. But, I was like everybody else, just kind of like working, trying to survive, that kind of stuff. Not really paying attention to what's been happening behind the scenes. Listening to the media rather than doing my own research. Wow. Right. Yeah, so there you go. you're confirming then what I'm saying. But again, I heard this from the Canadians when I went to visit there, and that should have been like a red flag to me. But you know, I was thinking, well, that sucks. You know, that's Canada, that's not America. Again, I didn't realize the wave of like the leftist wave that was like crossing the world. I mean, again, I should have known, but just wasn't paying attention. Again, this is what people don't see until it's too late. Like the people in Venezuela, they're not doing any better. They're doing worse than they were. You know, they got everything that they. Well, I'm saying they. You know, the mainstream got everything that they whined and cried for. So now all they have is more poor people, and they have what are they called? They have can't think of it now. It's what they have in Russia in some cities. Crime lords, I guess they're called, or something like that. I forget what they're called. They you know, like what we have in the cities today. You basically have inner cities run by crime bosses, gang lords, whatever you want to call them. And the Democrats don't mind that because they're the ones that keep the people in line. They keep them voting for them. And as long as the gang lords, you know, do what they're doing, the Democrats aren't going to come after them because they're keeping the people voting for them, and they're keeping the fear there. You know, and this is again what the media doesn't report. So that's what Venezuela is, a bunch of crime gang lords, and everybody's scared. So you have the communist group on one side, and you have the regular people group on the other side. And basically the communists get a little bit more than what the regular people do because they're against the communism, right? But they were forced into the system against their will because the government just implemented it and didn't care how they felt. So that group is being oppressed in many different ways in Venezuela. So this is not equity. It doesn't come down to equity. It comes to more oppression. You know, and this is what the left does. They say, oh, they're oppressing, they're bigots, they're racist, they're this. But yet they're the ones that are doing all the things that they're accusing the other side of doing. Right, exactly. Yep, that's how it is. And that's why you see here in America, like anytime the Republicans come to power, they always change the taxes, right? The tax code. And it's not to benefit the rich. That's not what it is. It actually helps small business. It does benefit, it benefits everyone actually. It doesn't just benefit the rich. It benefits everyone. And when the rich get tax breaks, they invest more. And they also expand their job, they expand their business, and they hire more people. And the whole thing about the trickle down thing, that was just a bunch of baloney. Because it was the progressive policies that kept people in minimum wage jobs. It was the progressive policies that took jobs away. You know what I'm saying? Because of their regulations they implemented, because of the tax code that they always implement. You know, whenever they get into power, they destroy business, which then destroys jobs. And again, I don't understand why people do not open their eyes to this, because this is what's been happening. So the people in the city, they keep voting for Democrats who are the ones responsible for them being in the position that they're in the cities. You know? So it's like That's all I can say is like, you know, what do you keep voting for the same people for? What are you trying to accomplish? Because you want welfare for everybody? Because you want health care for everybody? Which is going to keep you in a, like, basically a perpetual poor state, at least for most people, you know? Or if you don't think just simply living off $30,000 a year is enough for you. I mean, you're doing that now and you're complaining. So you want to continue to do that later and vote for it? It's like very weird, you know? We got two wrecks here. I gotta hurry up. But again, people don't see this until it's too late, like in Venezuela and, you know, the other communist countries who are still communist now. People in Russia, the Soviet Union, finally woke up after 80 years of finally figuring it out that this system is not what was all cracked up to be, you know, and that our own government is persecuting its own people to force it to do what it wants, you know, and that's what it is. It is the government, my friend, because you can't enforce things without the government. Like I said, the papacy ruled during the Dark Ages because they controlled the state, right? They 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 were one with the state. So it's the same thing with the leftist ideology. They're meshing it with the power of the state to enforce it. So it's a religion. It's the same thing. It's a religion. You know, they don't like it when you say that, but it is. It's the same exact thing. Same exact system. It's a totalitarian system. The same system the papacy implemented to control the people. Except this time, instead of fighting against it, people are voting for it. So that's the whole crazy thing about it. I mean, you know, whatever. I mean, what can you do? I mean, you're part of it. But see, I know that this world isn't going to last forever. The Bible is very clear. Again, Bible prophecy has been 100% true. Nothing's been an error. So, things are going to end the way they're going to end. And everybody's got to get ready, including me. Like a thief in the night, it's going to be unexpected. But again, this is why the left wanted to take out religion. This is why communists always want to take out religion, because once you take out religion, you don't have people, you don't have any, no one has anything really to fight, there's no, what's the word? There's no incentive to fight for something, even if it means, whoa, here we go. I haven't done that in a while. Wow. Am I gonna die? Oh. That hasn't happened in a while. Right, they don't do the research. That's correct. But I always tell people, just look at this. If you're voting for anything that takes away your freedom of conscience, freedom of thought, freedom of choice, it's wrong. You're hurting other people by doing that. You're not helping other people. You're hurting other people. You're taking away the rights of others, and that's wrong. It's always wrong. It always has been wrong. That's why we fought wars. That's why we had the American Revolutionary War. That's why other colonies fought for their independence. That's why this history is being erased. That's why they don't want you to see history. They don't want you to know about the Dark Ages anymore. In fact, I've heard people start saying that the Dark Ages never happened. I mean, they're going there, you know. That, I was telling people that it was actually Christians, the people who you were criticizing, who fought against slavery. They were the first. The Christian groups were the first ones that were passing out flyers and being activists against slavery in the late 1700s and 1800s. It wasn't secular people. I mean, there was secular people that came on board or whatever, but probably just to make it political as they always do. But you know, what's up, Franciac? Saying your last name, Farkas. So that's why they don't want you to know history. They don't want to. They only teaching the history that they want you to hear, which is all the negative things that happened in history. They didn't teach all the positive things that happened. All the fact that 500,000 500,000 Americans lost their life in the Civil War, fighting in a war. You know, they said what was done. What was the payment for the freedom of those who were put in slavery? Well, it was the blood of 500,000 individuals. It was the bloodiest war, I think, I think it was the bloodiest war in history. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but last I checked, it was the deadliest war was the American Civil War. And that doesn't count all the people who were injured. You know what I mean? Or maimed, or whatever you want to say. Now, they keep a lot out. And they also make you sick. And they also teach some kind of alternate interpretation of it. Like trying to tell you what the, our original founders thought in their heads. Well, they said this, but they really meant that. It's like, really? So what they actually wrote, it doesn't mean that? It's like what they do to the American Constitution, right? You have the right to bear arms, period. Done. When you read it, that's what it says. But yet, they'll come up with all these things in court saying, well, yes, we're not taking away their right to have an arm, we're just heavily regulating it. Well, if you have a right to bear arms, then it should not be regulated. You know what I'm saying? Period. Done. That's it. I mean, you just have a permit, right? Everybody's fine with that. Register your gun, and that's it. Go buy it and take it home. And if you have an unregistered gun, then the penalty should be heavy, right? Heavier, or make you do some kind of whatever, I don't know, community service, I don't know. Maybe not throw you in prison for a very long time, but but if you commit a crime and have an unregistered weapon, then your penalty should be heavier. I mean, that's it. I think that's about all that you need to do. There shouldn't be anything more. You shouldn't have any kind of restrictions whatsoever. And I don't own a gun right now. But again, our Constitution gives us certain rights. And I'm not one of those people anyway that think that guns run around on legs shooting people. Right? There has to be somebody behind it pulling the trigger. And the fact that guns exist doesn't mean that that's why people die. because there's plenty of countries that prove that wrong. That people still commit crimes even without guns. People still murder even without guns. So, it's kind of silly to say that if you do away with guns, then all this killing is going to stop. No, what you're going to have more of is people getting kidnapped, taken to a basement, and killed, and then thrown into a vat of acid. That's what you're going to have more of, right? The reason why people are getting away with killing with guns is because, again, this is happening mostly in the cities, and the cities are mostly run by, get what party? Guess. Like I said earlier, they encourage these gang lords because they keep the people in the cities in line, right? That's why they have the, what's it called? The ballot harvesting. That's a way for the thugs to go knock on your door and say, "Oh, we're here to deliver your ballot for you, Mrs. So and So. Is your ballot filled out correctly? Let's see it. Who'd you vote for?" You see? Or here's that $100 that we said we were gonna to pay you back. That you lent us. So they buy the votes. This is what's actually happening. That the media is not investigating nor reporting because they don't want to, because this is what they want. So again, this is all stuff that people are not being told about. Because all they're hearing is the other side is bad, the other side is evil, the other side is doing things that they're not actually doing. So, yeah. Anyway, it's 11:17. I think I'm going to call it a day. Let me just take out these couple. I've been on for 2 hours, so I think that's enough. I just wanted to get in hunting today because I promised. I'll leave the server running. I'm not going to shut the server off. Where is he? So again, I don't think that a lot of people will be so turned off. I mean, this is where the red flags should come up anyway. If people are willing to oppress, cancel, fire, hurt people for a particular cause, then that should throw a red flag up in your mind that you're not on the right side, right? Because I don't care how much you're told that we have to fight against this at all costs, no matter what the cost. You know, well, you know, the American Revolution was started after the British brought their soldiers here and were starting to oppress people physically, like physically. You see what I'm saying? So the American Revolution was basically started based on defense, right? But and when they protested, they did things like the Tea Party, right? The Boston Tea Party, where they dumped the tea over, right? So that didn't hurt anybody. They weren't canceling people. They weren't firing people from their jobs. You know what I'm saying? They did it in a peaceful but effective manner. You know, and it wasn't until the British came over here and started like stomping on the rights of people, like directly, physically. You see what I'm saying? So that would be a proper form of activism or protesting or whatever the case is. But then they also had facts to back up what they were saying and what they were believing. You see, it was based on the oppression of England you know, overtaxing them. They were also not letting them sell to other colonies around the world. You had to go through England. You see what I'm saying? So there was all a very hard facts backing up their protest and activism. It wasn't based on some like conjecture or farce science or some kind of like feeling. you know, big difference there. So when people went to the Capitol and were protesting, despite whatever happened with some of the people, they were there protesting because their rights are getting stomped on. They're being ignored, you know, and they represent half of the people in this country. So when you call them a terrorist, you're calling half the people in this country a terrorist or a bigot or a racist. I mean, that's ridiculous. See, that's language that people should be put in prison for if they're a politician, you know? Not Trump, because he's trying to number one, he put his money where his mouth is. He did a lot of things during his presidency which the press refused to acknowledge, and also the Democrats, that helped people. You know, gave money to predominantly black historical colleges. Was trying to feed money into the poor communities, which of course the first opportunity the Democrats got, they wanted to undermine that, right, with the riots. So Trump wants to bring more business in the cities to create more jobs, and they go and destroy the cities. So you tell me, who is really for the poor here? Oh my God. Really? Wow. Not good. Not good at all. Not good at all. How can I get away? I don't have a 700. Come on, let's keep going. Don't panic. Oh my God, look at this. I can't. I need to switch weapons. I wish I was able to switch weapons. You know where I'm going. Going down here to this rock. Whew, made it. Wow. Just gotta stay cool. What's up, Hanson? I'm getting ready to get off, actually. Sorry. I put a message up on Steam. I always put a message saying that I'm starting a server. Nice. Alrighty. Man, that was a pretty nice day, huh? Session. So I killed 8 T-Rex in 2 hours. Not bad. 13 Utah, 7 Trikes, 7 Velociraptors. Pretty nice day. I like that kind of a day because you stay kind of, I don't know, whatever. Things stay interesting, I guess. It's not a walking simulator. All right, everybody. I'm gonna keep the server up if anybody wants to stay. You guys be safe. Social distance. Happy hunting. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate talking to everybody. It's always nice to hear from you. Yeah, I won't be on Hokey. Sorry. Alright, I hate to say goodbye. I wish we can continue to talk somehow. But sadly enough, I have to go. Got family to take care of and whatnot. Alright, love y'all. Have a great weekend. If you guys want to do co-op, let me know if you want to do any other game co-op. I mean, there's a ton of games out there. I still am always up for doing something other than just Primal or just Cyberpunk or whatever, you know? All right.